Tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
What we got here is a 1963 Studebaker Lark. Picked this thing up pretty cheap, no motor and transmission. Floor pan's completely rotted out. Firewall's already been cut. And the biggest issue with the car was the front suspension was trash. It had a really janky homemade disc brake conversion kit that just it didn't look safe. Bushings worn, shocks busted, steering system off of a Ford tractor from the looks of it. So I kind of put the car on the back burner and tossed around several ideas. Lots of things I couldn't afford to do. Finally, I kind of gave up on the car, put it on the back burner. Went and picked up a two-wheel drive Colorado that I was going to do a real quick small block swap on. It was going to be a real easy, throw it together, put it on the road, have some fun. And lo and behold, the back half of the frame was completely rotted out on the truck. So here I am, again, with two rollers. Neither of them I feel comfortable putting on the street. So I figured, hey, you've got a two-wheel drive Chevy Colorado frame and you've got a 63 Studebaker with a cool shell on it. So why don't we mix it up and make something work? Got to doing some measuring on the frames. Figured out about where I wanted to clip it. So we just cut the front half off of both of them. I left plenty extra on the Studebaker. I left plenty extra on the Colorado front frame half. Kind of trimmed, fitted as we went, squared it up, measured the wheelbases, pulled several measurements from several points, got it where we wanted it, and we laid just enough weld on it to hold the two frames together so that we could roll the car around. Then I had to put it on the back burner again and make money because I have bills. So now we got it back in the shop, we're getting the frame cleaned up, we're doing some grinding. Kind of put together a plan to how we're going to finish merging these two frames and make them not only be structurally sound, but we want to make them look like they belong together. I really don't want the untrained eye to be able to look at this car and say, yes, somebody has welded the front half of the frame on it. I want it to be someone who's built hot rods their whole life to look at this thing very closely and try to figure out why the front half of the frame doesn't look like the back half. That's kind of the goal I'm going for right here on this particular portion of the project. As far as the future plan for the car, where I'd like to be, that is a good question. Budget is probably going to decide where we land on the car, at least in this portion of the build. You know, you don't sell these hot rods, you can always come back, change things. You can rebuild the whole car if you want to. And we may do that in the future. It's very possible. What I would like to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove the floor pans. I'd like to do some custom floor pans. I'd like to clean up this firewall where it's been cut. Kind of looks like they used a hatchet and a lot of Bondo to do that particular portion of the project. I would imagine that was probably done in the 70s or the 80s. This is an old school hot rod. It's had some old school work. It ought to be interesting. It ought to make a really unique build. I haven't found anything quite like this, quite like what we're doing. A lot of the benefits from doing it how we're doing it, we're going to have rack and pinion steering, modern disc brakes, parts are going to be easily accessible. We've now got strut front end, a nice sway bar, much heavier sway bar than came on the factory Studebaker suspension. This is going to give us the opportunity to run power steering. As far as power brakes, I don't think we're going to go with power brakes, at least not this phase of the build. We've got to finish molding these frames together, then we've got to set the motor and transmission in, fabricate new motor mounts, get the front clip fitted back on this thing, and then we'll probably start on the floor pans and the drive train. We have decided to go ahead and use the Colorado rear end as well to keep it a 6-lug all the way around. Didn't want to have mixed match bolt patterns on this car. Aside from the floor pans, the car's pretty solid. I was really impressed. Even the trunk floor's pretty good in it.
Wheel-wise, what do you got in mind? I know you're going to be kind of limited with the 6-lug setup. I know I've ran into that in the past myself.
And again, this is going to be, it's probably going to be determined by the budget. If I had an open checkbook, there are some like drag style wheels available I would like to run on it. Being how I'm building the car, what the car is, may just go back to the roots and see what we can find. I've acquired a set of aluminum fan jets, old school set of wheels. They would have to be cleaned up, and I think they could make a nice looking wheel. They're a 6-lug deep dish 15 by 10. I'd like to run fat tires all the way around the car. I'd like to shackle the car up in the back. I'd like to give it a real old school vibe. And I kind of like to build it the old school way. I kind of like to keep the money out of it, see what we can come up with, what we can trade for, what buddies have lying around, what we have lying around. I mean, possibilities are endless.
That's what we do best.